It may not be that fast. I'm just saying, if you start using numbers and statistics, that's what happens. And this is what your ad agency is going over and over in their mind about. And so when you're like, I'm not getting any leads, there's a control point in, but they can only do so much with that control point. And that's why they come back and they say things like, you need to spend more. And you're like, oh, I already spent all this money on service costs, and I spent all this money already. Why don't I have it? Because you're paying for someone to do what I just described. I haven't even talked about click-through rate percentages. I haven't talked about 5-second video views, 10-second video views, 15-second video views. All right, so let's talk about this. So, you know, the thing that's going on, I talk to business owners every single day, and they say things like, this agency ripped me off, this was a waste of money, this was a waste of time, this agency did this agency did that. I've had terrible experiences in advertising. I cannot count. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard this time and time again on every sales call that I go into. 95% of those calls are negative towards previous advertising agencies, and this is a real problem. This is an epidemic problem within the advertising industry. Where I think it comes from is the wrong expectations and lack of transparency on what's actually going on in advertising with smaller budgets or bigger budgets, okay? Now, I know companies that spend $20,000 to $30,000 a day in advertising. I know companies that spend $28 million a year in advertising or more on Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Google ads, and such. And what I see happen is you'll get a business owner or someone who is wanting to do the right thing to provide service to new clients, and they need leads. We all need leads. We all need that. If you're going into a space where someone is spending that kind of cash, if you're spending $1,000 a month in ads, or $2,000 a month in ads, or $3,000 or whatever, 10, you know, you're combating a rather large, you're combating a big game that you're going to have to play. And I don't think agencies dive into it deep enough to really express what's going on when you're using ads. And the thing that's going on here is there's factors. One of those first factors is there any history of advertising within the account that you have? Like, have you ever run ads before on Facebook or Instagram? Have you ever run ads before on Google? Are there any campaigns? And if there's not, and you're starting from scratch, you've got a mountain to climb, because there's a lot of factors going into that. The budget itself is going to determine the speed at which you see results. So if you're spending 10 grand a month, or 5K a month, or 3K a month, you know, you might see, I think at above 5, you're going to see some good results. Above 3, you're going to see some somewhat decent results. Once you start dropping below that, it's going to be really tight. And then there's the industry you're in. Is it e-commerce? Is it a contractor? Is it automotive? Like, what industry are you in? These are all variables you have to take into account. And I don't think agencies do a good enough job of setting up the front side of that if there's no history of advertising. Why is that a problem? Well, it's a problem because there's no history of winning ad campaigns. The Facebook platform itself has its own AI machine learning that it uses. It doesn't know anything about you, whether your ad is perfect or the copy is perfect. Computerologically speaking, or AI speaking, or data speaking, it has no information of who to send this out to. Now, you can suggest to it and control it as an advertiser of where to go, but you as the business owner have to understand that it's got to go and find the right people. And it may not find the right people at first, right? It doesn't know. So we have to do our best to give it everything we can. If you've got a list, you use the list. If you've got zip codes, you use the zip codes. If you've got demographics that you know, you use that. But if there's no history there, you're gonna probably be a little behind the profit area for a little while. And I don't know how long that little while is. That depends on how much you spend. But let's just have an open conversation about it. Okay? When I started my ads, I was at zero. I couldn't spend what I'm spending now per month in advertising. I couldn't even think about it. But I had to start somewhere, and I knew it was going to take time. Okay? And if it's a brand new company or there's no history of ads before, you're going to have to suffer through that condition of non-existence. Nobody knows. And the platform doesn't know. Nobody knows. The agency is going to do its best to put the ad campaign in there and run it and manage it and optimize it, but you got to let it run. The second factor is the budget itself, right? So if we just look at a budget, okay, let's just take a look at this. I'm glad I have my computer here. Let's just say you come into the show with, okay, your budget's $3,000 for the month for advertising. You divide that by 30 days. You're spending $100 a day total in Facebook and Instagram. Now, the nice thing is that Meta will automatically run ads between Facebook and Instagram. But in order for us, if there's no history, we have to run a few campaigns to test it out, to see which messaging works, which video works, what message is going to make the difference there. So if I run 3 campaigns, I divide 100 by 3, it's $33.33 per campaign to run against someone that maybe is spending $200 per campaign, so $600 a day in advertising, or $1,000 per campaign. Without any data, without any knowledge, you're only giving Facebook enough money to start to search and spend that money to go out in front of someone. Now, if you're in a contractor space, I've seen lead costs as high as $180. I've seen it as low as $20. It didn't start at $20, it started high. And this is where the talk of optimization comes in. So you as a business owner have to understand, if a cost to acquire a customer to start, not saying this is the case, ballpark, is $150, and you're spending $30 a day just to get it out in front of people before someone decides they want to take action, that's 5 days for that one campaign to even potentially get someone with the budget that you're spending. Now, let's say we triple that budget and you spend $180 per day per campaign, and maybe the average cost is $150. Well, maybe it takes a day or two to actually start getting lead flow. It may not be that fast. I'm just saying, if you start using numbers and statistics, that's what happens. And this is what your ad agency is going over and over in their mind about. And so when you're like, I'm not getting any leads, there's a control point in, but they can only do so much with that control point. And that's why they come back and they say things like, you need to spend more. And you're like, oh, I already spent all this money on service costs, and I spent all this money already. Why don't I have it? Because you're paying for someone to do what I just described. I haven't even talked about click-through rate percentages. I haven't talked about 5-second video views, 10-second video views, 15-second video views, 30-second video views. I haven't talked through click-through to the landing page. We haven't even talked about all that yet. So when an agency tells you what their cost per month is, they're thinking, and maybe they don't do a good enough job of explaining this, but they're looking at 22, 23, 25 different metrics that they have to work with to try to make sure that your campaign can actually come together and be put in a way that actually makes sense. So your job as a business owner, you have to understand that. Now, where I think it feels like a ripoff is where that I just described to you is not discussed. And so I try with the clients that we bring on to say, look, this is a new account. This is what's going to happen. You're only giving me this much money. And if you're willing to suffer, you're going to have to suffer a little bit, okay? When you first started your company, you suffered. You had to make sales calls. You had to find a product. You had to go through that pain. You're going to have to do the same thing in advertising, okay? Then the next thing is we've got creatives, and we got to test those creatives. Now, let's go back to those 3 campaigns I talked about. Let's say one of those campaigns has 2 or 3 winning pieces of content that win. Right? So now you've got a campaign, 3 campaigns running at $33 a day. In that campaign, you have 3 creatives. That means that Facebook only has $33 to test those 3 creatives per day. So this could take longer, right? So all that money has to get filtered through each thing. And then all of a sudden, the middle campaign starts to produce leads. The other campaigns aren't even being promoted because Facebook doesn't like it. So you shut those other ones off. Then all of a sudden now you're like, wow, this is the winning campaign. Okay, good. Let's put some more dollars behind this. That could be month 2. I don't know. It could take some time. But your agency, if they're good and if they're honest, this is what they're doing. And if they come to you and say, oh, we have to spend more, they're not saying it to make you mad. They're saying it because there's just not enough juice in the engine to find the lead or the e-commerce conversion that you want to happen. So when you engage with an agency and you do marketing, you have to take into the account, hey, do I have a new company here? Now, this is a little bit different if you're already existing agency and you've got ads running, some of them are performing, but maybe you're just not quite happy with the results. That agency should do the right thing, and they should really look at all the creatives in those campaigns and say, which one of these has the best click-through rate? Which one of these is getting all the metrics that line up that equal to a deal, and debug each step of those. There's like 22 of them you have to look at. How long are people watching the content for? Is it 5 seconds? Is it 10 seconds? Do they watch the whole thing? Do they click through to the landing page? Do they fill out the whole lead form? There's so many questions that an agency has to go through to be able to provide you a fantastic product. You getting mad at that agency doesn't help them. They're already under stress. They're already like, wow, we have to make this work, and they've got to go through their process. And if you change, let's come back. You've got those 3 campaigns spending $33 a day. The temptation is to change those campaigns every other day. Try this, try this, try that. Every time you do that, let's say you ran it for 5 days, nothing came in, and you say, no, we're going to change all the message, we're going to change all the creative. Well, guess what? You now reset it back to 0 again. Whatever learning that Facebook had on those campaigns gets shoved over here, and now Facebook has to restart its process of finding, restart the process of spending budget and sending it through the campaigns. And you may go another 2 weeks with nothing, and you say, I want to change it again. And you get stuck in this perpetual cycle of change this, without just giving it some time. 2 weeks is great. 2 weeks is good. I like 2 weeks. Could go even longer. There are moments when I'm tempted to be like, I'll talk to my guy Tyler. I'm like, dude, we got to change it. He's like, we just changed it. I'm like, okay. And then I got to kind of be patient. And then usually it starts to tick. But you watch all these metrics. So I'm just telling you this to give you the insight on if you feel like you're getting ripped off by your agency, ask them these questions. Talk to them about this. Get in there. You're responsible for that advertising, whether you like it or not. It is part of your business. But get in there and just have a conversation with them and just say, hey, like, what are some metrics that you guys use to indicate a great thing that's working? Like click-through rate, video watches, landing page. Like, what are you checking? Where are we at? Are these good indicators? Are they bad indicators? Just take the emotion out of it. And I'm going to say this, if you don't have enough money to advertise for 6 months or a year, you shouldn't be advertising. You just shouldn't do it. You should never use advertising as the final play lifeline. Like, sell the product first, grunt it out. Stack up 100 grand, 50 grand, 60 grand, then go to an agency and start working with them. But if you're on your last dollars and you're holding the agency responsible for that, that is not fair to the agency. That is your responsibility for the cash flow of your own company. That's not the agency's problem. That's your problem. The agency is going to do its best if they're good. And I'm not saying all are good, but most of them are good. Most people are good. But if you're relying on the agency to save your business, don't do it. Don't. That is bad for them. That's bad for you. It's bad for everyone involved. Go to the grassroots, make the sales calls, do the direct mailers, do cost-effective things first, get some cash flow in, then start looking at, okay, it's time to advertise. Because if you pin the survival of the company on advertising, that's bad news, man. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. And don't do it to the agency. Because you're going to hate the agency, and then you're going to say, all advertising sucks, agencies suck, I don't want to work with agencies anymore. And it's not even the truth. There was just not enough test. Maybe it was a new company, not enough cash flow in the account. Who knows? I don't know what your situation is. I'm just giving you an honest viewpoint. You may not like this. I was talking to a guy today, and I said, I'm going to tell you like it is. You need this much money to actually advertise. And I don't want to put you in a situation where you're going to be hurt. I'm going to put you in a situation where this is where I think I can help you and what we can do with what you've got, but these are also some of the expectations. So agency owners, you also have to do this too. There is no miracle cure for advertising, none. It's just time, persistence, analysis, a lot of spending, and looking at the offer. There's so many things. So the next time you get mad at an agency, have this conversation with them. The next time you say advertising agencies suck, look at what the agency did. Did they do what I'm talking about? If they didn't, okay, that agency sucked. But not all agencies suck. No one will do you like me.